Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides. You can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Saturday, May 7th, 2022, and this episode covers all of today's Major League Baseball games. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model for win probability, and I analyze weather data in order to come up with some plays on totals. I make one pick only on every game played Monday through Saturday. That doesn't mean that I recommend you do the same. I'm just giving you the information as to what I like the most and where my head is for each matchup. As I go through the plays, remember that there are no locks in gambling, so I'll give you our loves, likes, and leans to help you decide which picks you might want to play and how I recommend scaling wagers. With that in mind, please understand that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as I'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Yesterday, good day, 6-3, up a little over 6 units. Got a lot happening today, but before we get to that slate, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free and the only way to ensure that you don't miss any college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. Share with a friend if you know others in the game. Hit me up on Twitter or drop a comment if you're on YouTube. I love those and try to respond to as many as I can. And I also encourage all my listeners to have multiple sports books in their portfolio, especially ones with reduced juice dime lines. That's minus 105 on each side for MLB games. With these at your disposal, you should be able to find an edge on any game. I have a couple of these that I recommend. Links are in the show's description and on the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/sportsbooks. We got 18 scheduled games today. I'm not sure all of them will happen. There's a couple that I think won't, but a lot to talk about, so let's get right to it. 12:35 Eastern, first pitch, a morning start if you're not in the Eastern time zone. Pirates at the Reds. JT Brubaker versus Conor Overton. This is a rematch of the game that we were going to get yesterday, pitcher-wise. So I have the same number on this one, Pirates, minus 115. As I said yesterday, I wouldn't take the Reds. Right now I'm seeing Pirates minus 120. That's not a bad play at this point. I think I would endorse a Pirates minus 120 play. I'd endorse a Pirates team total over as well. I'm going to go full game over 9. It's even money, and I'm going to give this an A grade. Weather's going to be in the upper 50s, so a little chilly, but we're going to have winds blowing out to right at over 10 miles an hour. And you see that park factor there for Cincinnati, 108. This is one of the most extreme hitters parks that we have in baseball. It gets a little more extreme in the summer when it gets hot there. But if you'll notice on the next game, we pull up Wrigley Field. The park factor for Wrigley Field's only 93. The ball flies out in Wrigley too in the summer, especially when that wind gets behind it. And so it just kind of illustrates that in Cincinnati, it's a wildly extreme hitter's park. In the summer, otherwise, it's still a hitter's park. It's just maybe not quite as much, but it's still a hitter's park as opposed to a place like Wrigley where when the weather's cool, the wind's blowing in, it is not a hitter's park. So still a place where you can get a lot of runs. We've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. The Reds bullpen is atrocious. I have no faith in Conor Overton. I have more faith in him, I guess, than the bullpen, but I mean, that's saying nothing. So I love this over 9. I love the even money on this. A grade for me. With a doubleheader, I really think there's a good chance that if one team takes the lead, the other team just throws the back end of their bullpen and this game becomes a runaway. Somebody probably scores 7 runs in this game, in my opinion. So A pick for me on that over. 105 Eastern, the first pitch, Dodgers at the Cubs. Clayton Kershaw versus Drew Smiley. A chilly one there. We're talking low 50s. It's a little bit colder than down the road there in Cincinnati, but winds blowing in at about 12 miles an hour. And so a little bit of a different situation here total-wise. The model says Dodgers minus 190, so it would say it offers a little bit of value on the Cubs. My model just doesn't give Kershaw, I think, the respect he deserves. I think the model just kind of says fade Kershaw every time he goes out there. So I'm very hesitant. If I did play the Cubs, it's at those huge plus odds, so it's not crazy. It would just be a 1-unit play, not a 2 or a 3. For me, I don't. It might be a value play, but it's not one that I'm really going to be over invested in on the Cubs personally. There's no total out yet because there's not a lot of. There's a handful of games that don't have totals. A lot of games that don't have run lines yet. A lot of games that don't have team totals yet. It's something about. I don't know. Maybe all the guys were up partying last night. That's probably not true. You have a lot of games happening, a lot of weird weather situations. So they're just a little delayed. A lot of books getting those numbers out. So I'm holding off on this one for an official pick. under is enticing. A Cubs team total under is enticing with Kershaw on the mound. So there's a couple different ways that I want to look at this. I just want to see all the numbers first. So no pick from me as of yet. I will tweet out a play, and I will add that to the sheet, hopefully shortly thereafter this podcast goes live. 1 p.m. Eastern, first pitch, supposedly Rangers at the Yankees. The same two pitches we had yesterday, Glenn Otto and Garrett Cole. As yesterday, I think the Yankees actually should be favored by more than they are. I think that there's a little bit of value on the Yankees. But as I said yesterday, you're laying a ton of odds. You can do that if you want. We talk about parlays, and as I said before, I'm not a huge fan of them personally, but if you are throwing, some 3-team, 4-team parlays, that sort of thing, throwing the Yankees in there, not a bad idea. I think there's value. I think they win over 70% of the time. I don't really like run line on this one with a total of 7.5. Winds blowing in almost 20 miles an hour, and it's going to be in the upper 40s. It's just going to be miserable hitting weather. So it could easily be a low-scoring game. And that's kind of the other reason I don't love backing the Yankees at these big odds. If there's good value, there's value, right? But in a game that's going to be so miserable, I feel like it's just more of an anything can happen kind of thing. And so I personally just don't want to lay that big of a number with the Yankees. I'll do the same thing I was going to do yesterday. I'll go under 7.5 with just a B pick. I don't think this game happens, so I think it doesn't really matter. I think it's going to be just really cold, wet, and windy. They could play later in the day, but I'm just not sure there's an incentive to play this and just make everybody miserable. So my hunch is this game doesn't happen. I'm not sold on that 100%, but that'd be my thought. If it does happen, I don't see there being a lot of hitting, so I'm going under 7.5. It's a B pick. It's really a B plus pick. I really debated on the A. I think as I mentioned yesterday, though, I just don't fully trust either one of these pitchers. Cole's still good. He's just not great like he was before. Otto's, I project him about league average, but every time I watch him, I'm just not sold yet. So, like I said, kind of a B plus pick on this under. I just can't quite get there with that extra unit with these two pitchers, but I think under's the way to go if it happens because of this weather. Like I said, cold, wet, wind blow it in. Not good hitting weather. 2:10 Eastern first pitch, Athletics at the Twins, James Caprielin versus Sonny Gray. A game yesterday that cruised to an under with, I've mentioned this before, some of you haven't heard this. I play in a dynasty fantasy baseball league. It's NL only, so I know NL prospects fairly well. AL prospects, I kind of don't know about them until they come up, and that's what I'll do the research. Entering yesterday, I don't think I'd heard, I might have in the memories, not always perfect, but I don't think I'd heard of either starter yesterday for those two teams until yesterday. And of course, I got numbers on them, right? So I'll pull the numbers in, I'll look into them, whatever. But unless they're like a top guy, I don't hear a lot about AL prospects, I guess. But I mean, you have a game with two pitchers that I hadn't, if I had heard of them, I don't remember it. And a game that just cruises to an under in a neutral park in Minnesota on the whole. It was a chilly night last night, but I mean, the fact that they just cruised to that under just tells you everything you need to know about the offenses of these two teams and or whatever's happening with the new baseball, because that shouldn't have been that easy. And of course, there were a couple plays at the plate, and stuff like that. But I mean, that shouldn't have been that easy, in my opinion. I'm going the same way today. I'm going under 8. I'm going with a B pick on this one. It's a day game. It's going to be nice weather-wise. We're going to be in the low 70s, so the ball's not going to have as much resistance to it on fly balls. The wind is blowing in or across, and I think that's the real difference. If we get closer to first pitch and this is more of an in from right field wind, it's going to be 15 to 20 miles an hour. If it's more in from right field, maybe you jump this to an A grade. If it's more across from right field, that's not going to give us that extra boost that we need. So another B plus type pick for me, or several today, but I kind of waffled on that A or B. It's a really fine line. I don't really think either offense is good. The other thing to keep in note is that Correa for the Twins was lobbying to play yesterday. They held him out. My hunch is he's back today. That Twins offense isn't good, but obviously it takes a hit without Correa, so it's another thing to keep an eye on. It's not going to change my overall outlook on the game, but it just makes them a little bit worse when you drop Correa out, who's one of the better hitters in baseball. So okay, keep an eye on Correa, keep an eye on the wind, exactly which direction it's going. That kind of makes a difference between a B and an A. I'm going B on it. at this point, but I think under is definitely the way to look. Under 8 on this one. Sidewise, the model says Twins minus 202. So I'm seeing Twins minus 191 right now. I think that offers some value. However you want to play that, I think makes a lot of sense. Somehow to back the Twins as well, or an A's team total under. I think there's a couple of different derivative markets you can look into there. I'll stick with the full game under. There's a couple of different options that I think you have there if you like them. 2:10 Eastern first pitch, Blue Jays at the Guardians, a rematch, again, of one we were supposed to have yesterday, Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber. And, of course, just a side note, if any of these pitchers with the doubleheaders do change, then as soon as I find that out, I'll flip the pitchers around, make new numbers, make new picks, etc. Obviously, with these two pitchers, if one of them ends up going in the second game, not the first game, that's going to affect things for sure. No official pick for me on this one. As of right now, the first 5 market hasn't come up, and that's what I liked yesterday, and I probably like it again here today. I'm playing a lot of first fives today. That's probably where I would look. We still have winds blowing in from right center, about 15 to 20 miles an hour. We'll have 53 degrees at first pitch, and it's projected 53 degrees at last pitch. No rain to speak of. Game total 6.5, and as I mentioned yesterday, 6.5 just isn't a number I can get excited about. I'd go under 6.5, but I just would rather avoid a number like 6.5 unless it's the perfect situation. Both of these bullpens have their ups and downs. Sometimes they look fantastic, other times they don't. You have extra innings with them starting their runner on second base. In the old days, extra innings, you were guaranteed at least one more run, but you didn't have a ton of times where someone would score and then they would keep playing extras. And of course, now that's very much on the table. So I think first 5 under is the way to go, but that market hasn't opened up yet. So holding off on an official pick until that. Sidewise, the model says Blue Jays minus 112. I'm seeing Guardians plus 123. I think that would be the way I would look if I was taking a side on this one. I think both pitchers are pretty good. Gausman is definitely one I've talked about. I don't think he can repeat what he did last year because what he did last year was fantastic, so I'd drop him down a little bit. But he's definitely one of those guys, I mentioned this with a few others, that kind of just, if you look with your left eye, you look with your right eye. He can somewhere between good and great. And so I still think he's a good pitcher, and this is great weather for him to dominate. Bieber obviously is fantastic. So I like I said, first 5 under I think would be the way to go. But with 2 good pitchers, if you're getting plus 123, anything can happen. That also offers good long-term value. So no official pick for me yet. Want to see what the other numbers are as the market opens up a little bit later in the morning. I will tweet that and post it in the sheet. 4:05 Eastern first pitch, Mets at the Phillies. We had this one yesterday. Supposedly Max Scherzer, Kyle Gibson. We will try it again today. Another game I'm not sure happens, though. It's going to be cold. It's going to be wet. It's going to be windy. The hunch is this one and the Rangers-Yankees game. They just say it's not worth it. If it does, I will go back to the same play I made yesterday. The odds are a little bit worse than they were yesterday. I'll go Mets minus 143 with a B pick. I trust Scherzer a lot more than I trust Gibson. Like I said before, I think Gibson may be a little smoke and mirrors. I think under makes a little bit of sense as well, just because if Gibson is for real, if he is able to continue to outperform his peripherals, which some guys do, if you buy into that, I think game under would make a lot of sense. It's almost like that. It's a lot like that Rangers-Yankees game I talked about, which is if the game happens, it's going to be cold. It's going to be drizzly. Wind's going to be blowing in from right field at about 20 miles an hour. It's going to be hard to score runs. So I think under 7.5 makes a lot of sense if this game happens. Anytime the model says back Scherzer, I like it because the model tends to not like it doesn't tend to like backing the really, really good pitchers, and it doesn't tend to like fading the really, really bad pitchers because the numbers get extreme, and the model has a hard time with outliers. Any mathematical model will. And so Scherzer obviously an outlier on the just awesome scale, right? And so it's going to say fade Scherzer in general a lot. So anytime it says back a pitcher like that, I'm down. I think it makes a lot of sense. So Mets minus 143 is the play. B pick for me, almost kind of a B plus pick, kind of like I mentioned some of the other ones. Under, I think, makes sense. I don't think the game happens, so I don't think it really matters. I think we'll, they'll try again tomorrow, I guess, is what I think will happen. 4:05 Eastern, first pitch, Tigers at the Astros. We continue to roll with these Astros plays, switching things around when needed. I went back to the well yesterday with the Tigers team total under, and I'm going to make the same play again today. Tigers team total under 3.5. Odds are -134. I'm only going with a B play instead of an A play, and the reason why, Eduardo Rodriguez for the Tigers, pretty good pitcher. Framber Valdez for the Astros projects as a pretty good pitcher, and overall he's a pretty good pitcher. But let me tell you, as an Astros fan, he's one of the highest variance pitchers that I can recall. He can go lights out, 8 innings shutout, and I would just be like, yep, that makes sense. He can go 3 innings and give up 5 runs on 100 pitches, and I'd be like, yeah, Tigers' offense is horrible. Whatever, that's Fromber for you. He's just all over the map. And so I don't want to be over-invested because I just never know what I'm getting with that guy. At some point, you got to do what's right for your heart. I don't mean your heart and emotions. I mean your heart, like your heart health, if you know what I'm saying. So only a B pick for me. But I think Tigers team totals, the under is the way to go. I think game under makes a lot of sense as well. Again, on the whole, Fromber is a good pitcher. On the whole, I have Eduardo Rodriguez as well above average. So I think you got a good pitcher for Detroit. I'm going Tigers team total under instead of game under, specifically because that Astros offense has been a little up and down. The start of the season, it was just down. Now they're fully healthy. They got a couple guys going a little bit better. Tucker swinging the bat really well. I'm not – if I was sold that the Astros offense is ready to go, it might be a different story, but they still have some games where they don't look great, and Eduardo Rodriguez is a great pitcher. So game total under 8, I think, also makes a lot of sense. I'm going Tigers team total, one of the worst offenses in baseball. I don't see them scoring runs, but only a B pick, because if they do, it's probably because Fromber blew up and they're going to score like 7 or something stupid. And so, again, I just don't want to be overinvested if that world were to happen. The model says Astros -174. So at some point, as this number continues to eke out, you might say there's value on the Tigers. And I would agree with that sentiment as a long-term, just if you like dogs type play, because, as I mentioned, you have a starting pitcher edge on aggregate for the Tigers, and you have a variable pitcher in the Astros. So if that number gets out and you can get a +190, cross your fingers for a +200. I never know where the number's going to go. I assume more money's going to come in on the Astros because money tends to come in on favorites as the game gets closer to first pitch. If you get a +190 on the Tigers or something like that, I mean, it's not that I think the Tigers are going to win, but I think that offers value because favorites don't always win, right? So something to keep your eye on there. But in general, their offense is bad. So I think the smart pick is just take the Tigers team total under, or if you like, just take the full game under 8. Couple different ways you can look there. 4:10 Eastern, first pitch. White Sox at the Red Sox. Got us that first 5 winner yesterday. Had to hold the breath a little bit. It was looking good, and then all of a sudden things kind of started slowly unraveling in the bottom of the 5th at the last minute there, but we held on for that winner. Today it's kind of a similar story. 50 degrees, chilly, winds blowing in from center field, 15 to 20 miles an hour. But we do have a extreme hitter's park, and one that's a hitter's park not because of summer heat, just because of the dimensions of that place. Dylan Cease versus Nick Pivetta, a huge edge starting pitcher-wise to the White Sox. I love Dylan Cease. I've loved backing him or taking unders involving him. Model says White Sox -109. Right now they're about even money, so there's some value on the White Sox. This is another one I haven't made an official pick on yet. None of the secondary markets have opened up. I'd look first 5 under. I'd look first 5, maybe White Sox, just to avoid weird bullpen stuff. I'd look Red Sox team total under as well. I hate unders in that park, but gosh, that wind blowing in so hard and it being cold. You're going to have to crush one to get over the monster. That doesn't mean it can't happen, but on most days, a routine pop fly can get over the green monster. But on a day like today, with it being this cold and the wind blowing in, you're still going to have to really crush one to get over. And that doesn't mean guys won't do it, but it's just not going to be as easy. So the form of an under makes sense, especially with Dylan Cease going. So again, not all the markets have opened up, so I'm holding off on this one. I want to explore my options. I will tweet that pick and update it to the sheet later. Game 2 in Cleveland, Blue Jays at the Guardians. Ross Stripling versus Tristan McKenzie. Still going to be chilly, still going to have winds blowing in. For the nightcap, it'll be about 10 miles an hour. Model says basically a coin toss game with a slight edge to the Blue Jays. I will take the Guardians. They're plus 113, only a C pick for me. I don't really know what I'm going to get from either one of these pitchers. I don't really know what I'm going to get from either one of these offenses. I don't really know what I'm going to get from either one of these bullpens. You could go game under 7.5. I don't think that's a bad look with this weather. It's not going to be great hitting weather. I don't really like these two teams. I don't really think I have a great feel for, so I just don't want to be over-invested personally. If you've got an edge somewhere else, great. Exploit that for me. I think Guardians plus 113 offers some value, but it's one that I just don't feel great about, so only a lean for me on that one. Game 2 in Cincinnati. Mitch Keller versus Robert Duggar, two starting pitchers that profile pretty similar to the starting pitchers in Game 1. I don't trust Duggar. Obviously, he's not going to go very deep. Of course, to be fair, is any Reds pitcher going deep? Keller, around league average to below league average, just like Overton in Game 1. We have a chilly night, upper 50s, but similar temperatures. By the end of the game, it'll start dropping a little bit, but not a lot. It's not going to be one of those where the sun goes down and the temperatures crash. We're still talking pretty similar situation as the first game. Winds blowing out or out and across about 10 miles an hour. Another one that you might want to wait until we get closer to the game and see exactly which directions the wind is blowing. Is it really out to right, or is it out and across to right? I think that's going to potentially affect how you feel about this one. For Game 1, definitely out to right, maybe more out to right center. For this one, I think it's going to be more out to right, but if it shifts a little bit, that could affect things. Thinking it's going to be a little bit out and not across. I'm making the same play I'm making Game 1, over 9, even money, a pick for me. Model says Pirates minus 114, so I'd say the exact same thing as I said in the first game. Again, it's a pretty similar setup all the way around. The odds are pretty similar. A Pirates minus 120, I think, offers some value because I would not back the Reds, and I'm not sure the model can comprehend just how bad the Reds are. Again, any model, whether it's we're talking about the pitchers or the hitters or the team as a whole, it's going to struggle with outliers, and the Reds are the outliery of outlier teams for the season with how they just don't want to win from an ownership standpoint. The players, obviously, but from an ownership standpoint. So I think Pirates offer some value. I'm going over 9. Don't trust any Reds pitchers. Like I said before, the Reds hitters still seem to be playing and scoring. So until that stops, I don't want to change that up. I said for Game 1, I think if it starts to get out of hand, one team is just going to say, I don't care, I'll use my weaker pitchers now, and then someone's going to score 7 or 8. In Game 2, I think we have a kind of a similar effect. It'll be less about using my lesser pitchers if it gets out of hand, but I think it'll be somebody might start running out of pitchers, right? These two teams do not have enough bullpen to get through 18 innings with good arms. These two teams don't have enough good pitchers to get through 9 innings of good arms, unless you just put all the starters for the Pirates together, right? But I mean, in normal baseball, this isn't the case. It's going to get really taxing for them for 18. I know they can bring up an extra player for these double hitters, but you see what they have on the roster now. And again, all right, caveat, right? All these guys are much better than I am, right? I'm not trying to insult them as humans. I'm just saying, like, relative to how good major leaguers are, they aren't going to call anybody up who's going to be better than what they've got. What they've got now isn't good. So I think we're just going to see some really bad pitching. I think a lot of runs happen. I'm going to go over 9, even money, both games, a pick, both games. I understand one might push, but hey, if we win one and push one, that's a great result. And I could easily see, something like 35 runs or something being scored in both of these games combined. So I love these overs here in Cincinnati. Royals at the Orioles. Here's the replay from yesterday, Carlos Hernandez versus Jordan Lyles. I won't spend too much time on it. As I mentioned yesterday, both pitchers are okay. Maybe that's a stretch. I mean, you have Carlos Hernandez, who, depending on which eye you look out of, is either league average or below league average. His underlying metrics aren't exciting, but the Orioles offense isn't good. Jordan Lyles, A pitcher who I talked about this with Velasquez yesterday, and Velasquez has looked great as these former Astros. I gotta handle these former Astros pitchers, right? Both Velasquez and Lyles, ups and downs over their careers, and when they look good, they're not bad. Now they have times when they are just atrocious, but Lyles this year, his underlying metrics look better, just like Velasquez, underlying metrics look better. Again, not Cy Young worthy, but competent. Lyles looks competent this year, and competence against this Royals offense, who I have the Royals offense as the worst in baseball as of right now, projected going forward. A competent pitcher against the worst offense in baseball on a night where it's upper 40s and the winds are blowing in at 20 miles an hour. Yeah, I want that. All right, now I'm going under. I'm not going full game under, specifically because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in this game. Both these teams aren't good. I don't know who's going to be using the bullpen. I just don't want to deal with the back half of the game because I have no clue what's going to happen. So I'll do a first 5 under, just like I did yesterday. Under 4.5 is the number at -112. A pick for me. We've seen this is like maybe the 5th or 6th time I feel like now that I've gone either A or B pick on some under first 5 or full game where the pitchers haven't been good, but I've said, hey, these offenses maybe not great. The weather really lines up for an under, and it's worked out okay. So don't just look at the starting pitchers because neither one of them are great, but the situation is perfect for an under. Again, cold, wet, wind blowing in. Of course, the downside is, just like in Philadelphia, they may not play the game. They may just say it's miserable. If they do play it, we know when it'll get played, as opposed to a day game. It might shift to a night game because there's nowhere to shift it to. They may just decide to play through the drizzle because the fact that the Royals don't come back to Baltimore this season, that's on the table. And it's on the table for the Rangers, Yankees too, for the same reasons. So it might get played. It might not get played. We'll find out. Like I said, 3 games definitely that could get called off today. I think the other 15 are safe. If it happens, I love the first 5 under 4.5. This weather is just not hitting weather. 7:15, first pitch, Cardinals with the Giants. A Giants team that I'm fed up with this Giants team. They continue to find ways to lose close games. They continue to find ways to lose close totals, lose close unders, I guess. If you have an over on them, you're great. But if you're betting a lot of overs at this point, you're not paying attention because the number has not caught up to the lack of spring training, cold weather, new baseball combo, whatever's happening, right? That's spring training part probably can't talk about anymore, but the number still hasn't caught up. So you shouldn't be playing a lot of overs. So if you got a couple of these overs with the Giants, that Dodgers one that went over, kudos to you. But Giants just keep finding ways to disappoint me, and I feel like today's my last rodeo with them. Logan Webb, I trust. I think is fantastic. Steven Matz, I think, is pretty good too for the Cardinals. It'll be a chilly night in the Bay Area, 55 degrees, winds blowing out, but I don't know what that means in that park. With the way those winds swirl, again, you'll heard me say this. It's one park that wind blowing out means wind blowing in means I don't know. There's usually not a lot of wind effect most nights, and unless you live in the area and can get inside that ballpark, you probably won't know because what's happening outside the stadium doesn't tell you what's happening inside the stadium. So if you're there, 10 minutes before first pitch and you see what's happening, right, where the flags are blowing, you can get the feel for it maybe. But otherwise, I don't take much wind in or out on this park to mean anything. I do take the 55 degrees to mean something. It is chilly. That'll make it a low-scoring atmosphere. 2 pitchers I really like. 2 offenses I don't really trust. I'm going to go first 5 under 3.5 at -120. A pick for me on this one. It's kind of a similar story to what I talked about with Blue Jays Guardians. It's pitcher weather, good pitchers, but I don't want to go under 6.5 for the full game. You can. It's what I would do if I was playing full game total. I'd rather just isolate first 5, just because I don't want to deal with a 3-3 game in the 11th inning, and now I know I've lost, right? So I'm going first 5 under 3.5 on this one for the A play, just because I can't get 7 on the total. I don't see 7s appearing. 6, probably the right number on this game is 6. That way you lose at 6, or excuse me, you push at 6 rather than win. So 6 is probably the right number, but 6.5 isn't a number that I think offers us value as bettors. So I'll go first 5 under 3.5. A pick for me on that one. Brewers at the Braves, 7:20 Eastern. First pitch, Corbin Burns versus Max Fried. A little bit worse weather temperature-wise than last night. We're going to start off in the mid-60s, close around 60. So a chillier night than last night in Atlanta. Winds will be blowing out again, about 10 to 15 miles an hour to left center. Total-wise, this is a tough one. The total of 6.5 is probably about right. It's definitely a total that I'm staying away from. I do like both these starting pitchers, but with the wind blowing out and with the Brewers' offense going the way it is right now, 6.5 is just not a number I'm going to get excited about. I think 6.5 is the right number. And I haven't said that a lot about the totals this year. For the most part with the totals, if you just blind bet unders from the very start, you'd have so much money right now. But I think this one, we're catching up. We haven't caught up there fully. But for this one, I think that number's probably pretty right. Again, maybe it should be 6, but I'm not excited about 6.5. I'm not excited about a first 5 under either, just because wind blowing out could and it's not cold, right? It may be a little nip in the air, but it's not like it's cold, starting off, and that first 5 will be at 65 degrees, so it's not going to really kill the ball that much. So first 5 under isn't something that I'm interested in either. I'll go Brewers minus 113, B pick for me. The model says Brewers minus 116. The way the Brewers are swinging the bat right now, part of that I know is against the Reds, but I said I thought their offense was starting to come along before that. I think they are the way to go. They have a better – not that the Braves bullpen is bad. They were yesterday, unfortunately. For us, but Brewers fantastic bullpen, and Corbin Burns is a guy that can go out there and throw 7 shutout, and we all would, I don't want to say expect that, but we'd all be like, oh, absolutely, right? I mean, that's what this guy can do. So I like backing the Brewers here at this number. I'd probably back it up to about minus 120. Once it gets higher than that, it's a tougher ask for me. I just think the value starts to go away, but at 113, 115, something like that, I think you got good investment. I'll go B pick for me there. Another B plus pick. I almost made an A pick. It was a tough call. It was a tough call on this one between A and B. It's like I said, B plus, A minus type of play. I think the Brewers are the right side. I think I haven't been overly impressed with Fried this year. Good pitcher, but I just really like the way the Brewers are swinging the bats right now. So, like I said, B plus pick for me on the Brewers at a number like minus 113. Game 2 in Chicago, Dodgers at the Cubs. Tyler Anderson versus a Daniel Norris that I project to be above league average, but I assume he's only going a couple of innings here. I don't think he's going to go deep. Cubs bullpen, decent behind him, so not a bad setup for the Cubs in this one against a weaker pitcher. I don't think Tyler Anderson maybe is as bad as his projection indicates. I don't think the Dodgers will ask him to do too much either. They're not going to ask him to go 3 times through the lineup, so no one he only has to go through twice. Allows him to ramp it up a little bit. So not a pitcher that I dislike there, but I mean, I think the Cubs pitching setup probably actually just a little better in this night game. It'll be chilly, winds blowing in 5 to 10 miles an hour. So you could look full game under in this one. Again, as of right now, the totals are not out. I think full game under makes a lot of sense, depending on what the number is. If you can get under 7, I'd go under on this one. With that temperature, wind's not blowing strong in, but maybe enough to take a first row homer to the warning track. So that's something to look at depending on what numbers pop up. I'll go Cubs. I'm going plus 175. The model thinks it should only be 146. So the model thinks the Cubs have some value. Only a C pick for me because we're winning almost 2 units. So it's one of those C plus picks. It's a C in regards to how we're scaling. It's not a C as much as what I like. I like it more than that. But I don't need to wager the extra unit because we're going to win so much if they pull it off anyway. And again, I don't think the Cubs do win. I just think they win, 40% of the time. And if they win 40% of the time at plus 175, that's a good investment. So I like the Cubs here. I like the under depending on what number you can get, but not what I'm going to be heavily invested in. Rockies the Diamondbacks. Kyle Freeland versus Zach Davies. 8:10 Eastern first pitch in the dome there in Arizona, or if it's open, it's because the weather should be nice. Model says Diamondbacks minus 103, basically a coin toss game. I'm seeing minus 105 on both sides, so they're saying coin toss game 2. I agree with that. Two pitchers who I like, Kyle Freeland. I don't like Zach Davies, but I like everything that Brett Strom does for the Diamondbacks pitchers. I'm going to go under full game 8.5 with a B pick. We got an A winner on the Rockies team total under yesterday. They got that run in the first inning and then were held scoreless the rest of the game. Constantly say this, right? Rockies bats on the road. You want to fade them in one way, shape, or form. So you could take the Diamondbacks. They're playing better. So, I mean, taking the Diamondbacks, I think, makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go under 8.5 with a B pick. It's straight up a coin toss for me. I mean, my gimmick is I'm making one pick on each game here officially, but I literally just flip a coin between if you want the Diamondbacks or you want the Rockies or you want team total on the Rockies under. I think all of them make a lot of sense. None of them I'm jumping up and down for because I can't get to an A pick with anything backing Zach Davies. As much as I like the Diamondbacks pitchers this year, I don't believe yet in Zach Davies. So not an A pick because he's prominently involved in however you're backing him. But I think it's the right side, whether it's under or Diamondbacks or Rockies team total. But whichever way you want to look on that, my grade on that is a B. 8:40 Eastern first pitch, Marlins at the Padres. Got us a winner with the Padres last night. The model just continues to think the Padres should be much bigger favorites than the Marlins in this series. And the model's been right. And that the Padres have won, but I do want to caution y'all, right? Like, we want to try to look at results in the best way we can and not just who won the game. Padres win a one-run game on Thursday. They win a one-run game on Friday. If these two teams played 162 times, you would not say, I think the Padres are going to go 162-0 and win all one-run games, right? Like, we all can agree on that, I think. When you win a bunch of one-run games, it means you're basically about even with that team. And so the model has been right, but I mean, we're talking in both games, one swing of the bat, and the model's wrong on both. So the bottom line is that those were close games, and the model was on the right side. But if the Padres had won both games by 5, I'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, the model's definitely picking up on something that everybody else wasn't, right? Being close games, though, I'm just not sure what to do with that. It's not like it's I don't say like, oh yeah, the Padres are definitely rolling over the Marlins here. Like, they won close games and good for them, and you can't take those wins away from them. I'm just saying, projecting forward, that's not overly helpful information. That it's more helpful to look at run differential. Maybe that's what I should say. A reminder, it's more helpful to look at run differential than record. It's something I've debated adding to the sheet. I just need to. There's a long list of things I want to do that I don't have time for, but I've debated adding that to my sheet, right? And putting the win-loss columns, adding run differential, just as a reminder of run differential as a better estimator of how good a team is. So just something to keep in mind there. Model says, again, the Padres should be huge favorites here. Model says Padres minus 137, and they're only minus 111. So if you want to back the Padres again, I think that's a smart play. Go for it. My fear is I don't like fading Pablo Lopez. I think he's really good. I think he's undervalued. So that's my hesitancy with backing the Padres. Weather-wise, we're going to start off in the mid-60s. We're going to close around 60 degrees. Winds blowing mostly across and or not blowing at all. Two pitchers with Pablo Lopez and Sean Manaea that I trust. I'm going to go first 5 under 3.5. It's minus 120 odds. I'm going to give this an A grade, similar to what you've heard me say a couple times already today, which is I don't want to go under 6.5. And as the books are adjusting and they start throwing out more 6.5s, and we're going to start seeing some 6s, in my opinion, we're going to have to start looking at these first 5s because I don't want to deal with extra innings. I don't want to deal with ties and being forced to score runs at the 5th inning. It doesn't matter if it's a tie. We don't have to care, right? So the first 5s are going to start offering us some potential value here as the numbers keep coming down. I think this is one of those spots. A pick for me. I really like both of these pitchers. All of the first 5 unders today that I'm doing, I'm going A pick. And it's similar to what you've heard me say before sometimes on these. It's that I can't really differentiate them. And so I think I've got 3 of them. I think it goes 2-1. I don't know which one loses. There might be a 4th one I add. I think it goes 3-1. It's one of those that I really like them. One of them's going to blow up for us because with the first 5 unders, it just takes one swing of the bat to do it. I don't know which one. I looked at it. I can't say. I don't know. I'd love to be able to tell you, yeah, this is the one that I still think is the right side. I just like it less, but I don't know. So I'm just going A grade on all of them because I think it's the right play. And so I just want that extra unit across the board, and that way we'll just increase our bankroll a little bit more. 9:07 Eastern, first pitch, Nationals at the Angels. Josiah Gray versus Michael Lorenzen. Going to be low 70s to start. Going to be mid-60s to close. Winds blowing out to left center or left field, about 10 miles an hour. Model says Angels minus 181. So I'm backing the Angels tonight. The question is, are you doing it on the money line or are you doing it on the run line? And I'm going to go run line. It's plus 125 odds right now, and I'm going to go with a B pick there. The run line won for us yesterday. Total's 8.5. So again, when I'm laying a run and a half, I want to do it when the total's higher because more runs means more likelihood that we can win by more than one. Low total means more likely to be a 2-1 type game and us fall short. So I'll go run line personally, whether it's money line or run line. I think the Angels are the side to back. Neither one of these pitchers is great. Both are okay. And I kind of said all year, I just don't really think the Nationals are that good. Angels, again, I think are decent. I think they're better than the Nationals. Being at home, I think the Angels are the side to back. They've played well. Hopefully they can keep that going. Last one for us. On the day, Rays at the Mariners. Drew Rasmussen versus Marco Gonzalez. A game last night that just had so many runs in it. And there's the speculation, right, about what's happening with baseball, with Major League Baseball and the balls. I am very nervous that the old batch of balls is in play in Seattle here this weekend. And the reason I say that is watched that game last night and, Suarez hits that home run and it was a home run no matter, you could have used a rock and that ball was a home run. He crushed that ball. But that ball flew, right? With the newer ball, it's like you crush a ball and it's like, oh, that's a home run. But that one he hit last night, Arozarena out there in left field didn't move. Second deck, it just got out in a hurry. And it just felt like the old ball. There's just so many runs in that game last night. So I don't know. But the catch is you just never know when they're going to start using old balls or new balls, right? And that's the problem. Is that's what they've done in the past. Is they've just randomly, switch balls in the games, in the series, in the middle of the season. We don't know what's happening, right? So I think under's the same is the smart play. Like I said yesterday, number 7.5. I really like Rasmussen. Marco Gonzalez is average. But with the way the ball flew out of a pitcher's park last night, in a chilly night, they had the roof open and it was chilly. You could see a lot of guys were wearing sleeves. I just don't want to. I can't give it an A grade because last night is like if something weird's happening with that ball or and they're using those old balls in that park and we're starting to see some of that. I'm just a little nervous there, so I think under's the right side. But like I said, last night scars me from keeping this to an A play. And both these offenses aren't bad. A couple of those runs happened just from a bunch of 2-out singles. And so I think going forward, I think those 2-out singles are kind of an indication of teams that get hits are good, but also like maybe tonight they don't string together like 4 2-out singles in a row. Because that's not common. It's hard to do that, no matter how good you are. Right? So I think under's the way to go, but these offenses are decent, and that ball flew out last night. So that's why this is a B pick for me instead of an A pick, number 7.5. Model says Rays minus 119. I will tell you this. I'm not backing Mariners plus 125. I don't have a problem backing Marco Gonzalez, but if I'm going to fade Rasmussen and this Rays team, I want to do it at better odds than that. So Mariners plus 125 is not enough value for me, even though the model would say edge. I personally, I just think Rasmussen's a pretty good pitcher, and I would personally need a plus 130 in the plus 130s, probably. By the time he gets a plus 140, sure. I don't think we see that sort of number, but if you do see a plus 140 in the Mariners, I think there's value there. I don't see that happening. But otherwise, I need that sort of value to fade Rasmussen personally. Whew. A lot of games today. I'll recap you the A picks. I got double overs in Pirates and Reds, over 9 in both games, even money in both games. On that one, I've got Royals and Orioles. The Royals, right? The Royals at the Orioles, first 5 under 4.5. I've got the Cardinals at the Giants, first 5 under 3.5. And I've got Marlins at the Padres, first 5, also under 3.5. And then hockey. We got to talk about hockey now with another Dallas Stars game tonight. We had an easy A winner on that under 2 nights ago. Now, the series shifts back to Dallas, and so I do want to point out that in hockey, some of you are aware of this, some of you aren't. The home team gets last line change. That matters in this series because the Stars have one line that can really score. Their top line is fantastic, and beyond that, it's not good. The other 3 lines are just straight defensive lines at this point of their careers, even though some of the names may sound like they're not. You know, the Jamie Benns, the Tyler Seguin, some of these guys who've had some good years. They're not at the point of their career where they're big offensive lines anymore. That matters at home because the Stars have the opportunity to now get their best scoring line out at different times. I don't know how that's going to shift the game plan. So that's something to consider in this one. I might temper back my wager a little bit from Game 2. Game 2, I felt really confident that what the Stars did in Game 1 was exactly what they wanted to do. It worked as well as it could work with the fact that they're playing a really good team. It was a low-scoring game. They were on the wrong side of the stick, but that didn't mean they should change anything. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened in Game 2. They were on the right side of the stick in Game 2. In general, I think they're going to try to do the same thing. Calgary has a great offense, but they also have a really good defense. Both goalies look fantastic. I still think under is the way to go. After those first 2 games, though, you're going to have to pay a price for it, or you're going to be going under 5. I would just temper back my wager a little bit because I just want to see exactly what the Stars' game plan is. So I still think under's the right way to look, but I'm going to go B grade today under on this pick, see how it plays out, and then come Monday, depending on what I see, we might be back up to an A pick, or we might stick at B pick depending on what the number does. But today, if you're under 5.5, you have to lay a lot of juice, or like I said, you have to look somewhere else for a 5 to get better odds. So that's what I have for you in our hockey special of the night. If you don't like the Stanley Cup playoffs, check it out today. There's games all day. It's a lot of fun, in my opinion. And that is all I have for you today. Long episode, but a lot of games. Hopefully you found some good information. Thank you for tuning in. A reminder, check out that Google Sheet for model picks, projections, and results. You can find that link at the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button to ensure that all of the sports betting content we provide on this channel is dropped right into your feed. I will see you on Monday. I will post the model output tomorrow, maybe a little bit later in the morning with Mother's Day happenings, but I will do it well before first pitch. I'll post what the model projects, but no show, no official picks from me during the regular season on Sundays. Best of luck today. Best of luck tomorrow, all weekend. Happy Mother's Day. If you're a mother watching this show, if you're not, go tell your mother Happy Mother's Day. Give her a call earlier in the day if your mother is still with you. Remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.